Sheryl, you've written all kinds of forms, literary forms, novels, short stories, chapter books, school plays, and nonfiction articles and blog posts.
Yep.
How did you start in this business? How did you become a writer? And and what is your favorite form to write in of all of them?
I started off writing short stories, just playing around with words, I guess. And then I got into writing a bit of non-fiction or little articles for children's magazines. We used to have a really good series of children's magazines in Australia, and I got a couple published, so that started me on the ball of thinking, oh, I can do this. But then, the story goes back further than that, because I used to live in Western Queensland in dinosaur country, and I found my first fossil. It was a little sea whelp when I was about 12. So I've always had an interest in Australia's paleontological past, because our dinosaurs are unique there, because we've been a separate country for a long time, and it's a very ancient country. And I also knew that there were the area where I lived, they were finding fossils, big dinosaur fossils. So, and I love reading adventure stories, of course, as you do. Young girl adventure stories were my favourite, but of course fossils also were. So I thought, one of these days I'm going to write a story about a fossil dig, and it's got to be an adventure. And that's how this book came about.
Secrets of Eromanga.
Eromanga was the inland sea that used to cover the inland of Australia 95 million years ago. So the dinosaurs lived around the sea, and also in it, the marine reptiles in it. And now it's that area in Queensland where most of the big dinosaurs are found in our country. So it's called Queensland. That part of Queensland is called the Dinosaur Triangle of Australia.
You were at ground zero as a kid.
I was at ground zero, and I didn't realise it. I just knew that there were people who had big lumps of looked like rock as doorstops.
Yes.
Of course, they weren't rocks. They were, could have been a knee bone of a dinosaur holding open the door. So yeah, that's the sort of childhood I had.
Now that's real interesting, because you were saying that Australia's dinosaurs were not like no other dinosaurs in the world, apparently.
Yeah, similar. Like we have a dinosaur that we know existed up near in the area where this book is set, and it's very much like a smaller version of T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex, but just as vicious and just as craving for meat as T-Rex.
Yes.
So that's what, and I really wanted to write a story, a modern story where, like, a young girl, and I could see myself being this part of this adventure, of course, on this fossil dig, and but I also wanted to bring in a young dinosaur into the story, because I'm really interested in science. So I thought, how am I going to do this? Because I don't want Ellie, who was the character, jumping back in time, time machine sort of stuff. It wasn't that sort of story. So what I decided to do was so there'd be one chapter of Ellie's story, and then the next part of the chapter, so every alternate chapter is the story of a young dinosaur.
Bring it up a little more.
So the young dinosaur, I knew the young dinosaur would be a plant-eating dinosaur. It would live in a herd, and I did a lot of research about what type of dinosaurs were around then. So I knew that the Tyrannosaurus type, what we call sauropods or theropods with theropods with 3 toes, the ones like Tyrannosaurus Rex, they were there, and also the smaller plant-eating ones and the big plant-eating ones that were like Brontosaurus.
Okay, yeah.
So I found out that there was a fossil dig happening up in far western Queensland, not far from where I actually lived as a child, and they were digging up the biggest dinosaur found so far in Australia, and it was called the Elliot dinosaur. So I rang up the museum and said, well, you know, is there any chance? And they said, well, yes, we've got volunteers going up there. I thought, I'm in.
I'll
I'm writing
volunteer.
a story for kids. And when you tell people you're writing a story for kids, it opens doors. I mean, I paid to go to the site, and that's what helped the actual put money towards the actual dig. So there were about
As a contributor or
yes, yeah.
interested science person.
So there were about a dozen of us on that trip who did this. So I met all sorts of people,
Oh, how
volunteers.
interesting.
It was great. So while we were there, and of course the big dinosaur that we were digging up was the Elliott dinosaur is a sauropod, and that's the. I'll show you the picture. This is the sort of dinosaur.
He's being called Elliott because that was the name of the landowner.
Elliott was the name of the family, the Elliott family. It was on their sheep station where the dinosaur fossils were found.
It shows the scale of this sauropod to the human.
Yeah.
So his knee, from his knee to his foot, is about the height of a man.
So it was a big one. So while we were there, we also went over to what's called Lark Quarry Dinosaur Stampede, which is probably just about 100 kilometres southwest of Winton, the little town. And I had this idea about the dinosaur, the young dinosaur, and I wasn't sure how I would actually make the story build up towards the climax. As you know, like the little dinosaur has its own story, like Ellie. Both have to have a reason for being in the story, both have to have a big problem, and both have to have, you know, insurmountable problems to actually either win in the end or not, and survive what they have to go through.
Yes.
With Ellie, it was fossil smugglers. We have a big problem with, I think actually you do in America as well, and other parts of the world, a problem with people stealing fossils from sites, really good fossils, selling them on the black market. So the people of the country lose their national treasures.
Yes.
By the black market, and
Yes.
people, you know, unscrupulous people like that. So that happens in Australia. So I thought I'm going to bring illegal fossil smuggling into this. So there's the baddies.
Those are perfect bad guys.
Definitely perfect bad guys. And also there's another bad guy in the form of Peter, who's a girl who's also on the fossil dig, who's the friend of Ellie's friend there. And
okay.
Tom thinks, you know, it's the same thing. Tom thinks Peter's really cool, but Ellie, of course, she can't stand her because she's a bit sassy and she's gorgeous looking, and Ellie's not. So Ellie...
a rival more than
a
the bad guy.
Yeah, but,
okay.
you know, maybe facing fossil smugglers was better than Peter for Ellie.
Yeah.
Anyway, she goes to Lark Quarry Dinosaur Stampede, as we did. And when you walk inside, if anyone wants to Google that, you will see pictures of what it looks like. You know, there are fossilized footprints all over the world, but I think it's the only place, I'm pretty sure it's the only place in the world where you'll see a stampeding, a whole lot of dinosaurs stampeding. And when you look at the fossil, they've dug up a part that's it's about 3 tennis courts end to end, and there are over 3,000 footprints in the rock, and they're about 5 different types of dinosaurs, and they're running, scattering, and down the side are 11 huge footprints that are obviously it's stalking this big animal is stalking these little ones. So it was one event that happened one day.
And they can read those tracks and get a really clear idea.
Scientists have looked at those tracks for the last... They were found in 1972, I think. They were discovered and they lifted up. So they've researched them a lot. And
what would we Google to find the dinosaur stampede?
Yeah, if you Google...
You were showing it to me the other night.
Lark Quarry Dinosaur Stampede.
Lark Quarry.
Lark Quarry, yeah. And that, as soon as I walked in that door of it's now a special covering over it, and protected from the environment, protected from animals walking on it. But as soon as you walk into this beautiful, big, quiet space with just the natural light coming through,
yes,
well, you know, the hair went up the back of my neck because right there on the rock, I had my story. So I knew how I was going to finish this story.
The stampede is going to appear in the
Of
story.
course it has to, yeah, because the little dinosaur's going to have to die. Sorry, don't tell any kids I said that.
No.
Because the kids, you know, the younger kids like that being read to them. And I felt really bad killing off my dinosaur. But because she's a lovely character.
She's a lovely character.
But this is a story that had to happen. And of course for Ellie to be connected 995 million years with this young dinosaur, it had to happen. So
Yes.
that was how Secrets of Eromanga got its roots.
Now, Sheryl, you said the book had a long and winding path to publication. Can
yeah.
you tell us a little about?
Well, I wrote it and of course thought that it was finished before it was, as you do.
Mhm.
Sent it off. Oh, I don't know how many rejections, because I won't say the number. I've got a whole book of rejections for all my stories. I like to keep rejections, rejection letters, because some wise person said it proves you're a writer, and also you regard your rejections as part of your apprenticeship. I
Yes.
think.
The more you have, the more sturdy your apprenticeship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, I got a lot of rejections, but every time I did get a rejection, I looked at, I might have, cursed a bit, said a few choice words, and then got it back to rewriting and thinking, why is it being rejected? And then, this happens all the time. I've noticed when you're sending out stuff. The first letter, you might get a letter back that is, one paragraph rejecting it, but the better you keep writing it over the years, you start getting, and also you're writing other stories, you start getting rejection letters that actually say something worthwhile. Different stories, and then you start getting letters where your writing must be improving because the person, the editor who's written it, starts telling you, things that they really like this part. Maybe this part needs working on. You think, well, that is so helpful. So the ideal rejection letter, besides getting an acceptance, is someone who says, I really, I love what you've done so far, but I'd love to take you on and say, okay, let's work together on this. That's my ideal one.
Where you might have to do a revision as a spec, but
revisions.
But he might work with you.
I love revisions because then you've written you've got the guts of it there. Then you've got the freedom to explore other avenues. Really think laterally about your story and go with the flow of the creativity that comes with it. So yeah, I love that revision bit.